Everybody, how's it going? Dan Schinder here on Drum Talk TV, coming to you from Globe, Arizona, 100 miles east of Phoenix. Don't worry, I don't even know where it is, and I live here with this guy, Ray Hearn from Haken, joining us for the second time at home in England. Ray, welcome. So excited to talk to you about so much stuff.
Great, yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just launch right into this new Haken album coming out. Tell us what the recording process was like. Was there a lot of remote stuff? Did you get together and write? I remember the previous album, a lot of Vector you wrote on the previous tour on the bus and things like that. You're able to be together. How's this one? How's the new keyboard player working out? And what's the difference between this and other Haken material? What can people look forward to, especially those familiar with Haken material?
Yeah, well, that's big question. The writing process was fairly long, I guess, for this one, given when we actually started and when the album's actually finished and recorded. And we wrote it in quite a few different stages, and different people were chipping in with different songs. So it's quite a sort of collaborative, but also at times quite a remote process, the way that we work when we're making music. Yeah. But we did also spend a week together later on in the process, once most of the music had been kind of sketched out, and we all got together in the Surrey Hills. Was it the Surrey Hills or was it the South Downs? South Downs, yeah. It's just a lovely part of the countryside south of London. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Connor flew over for that as well. So all six of us were together in a house for about a week, and we kind of tweaked arrangements and finalized things that we'd all been working on remotely up until that point, and focused more heavily on like vocal melodies and started talking about potential like conceptual ideas and that sort of thing. And then what happened after that? I guess that was actually after we'd already recorded and finished Nightingale. So Nightingale, the first song from the album, was released, quite far in advance. I think it was like back in February or March time, or maybe it was a bit later than that. And then we went on tour with Symphony X in North America. So right. That was kind of that kind of put things on hold, because obviously we've got a lot of work to do towards a tour. So the album kind of took a back seat a little bit there. And then the idea, so when we were on tour with Symphony X, we were again on the bus together, a little bit similar to when we're making Virus. Mm-hmm. And we continued to sort of finish arrangements and things like that, and finish our own individual parts. I do a lot of drum programming when I'm writing my drum parts now, so I was spending a lot of my off time on tour just working on that stuff, so that basically as soon as we got home from the tour, straight into the studio. And was it straight into the studio? I guess I had a few weeks to practice, because going straight into the studio having not properly learned the songs would be a bit of a nightmare. But so recorded the songs in the summer sort of time. And yeah, it's been a really good process, honestly. It's been really enjoyable. And yeah, having Pete back in the band has been great. Great. The sort of creative energy and the general vibe in the band, writing and touring and everything. It's just,
because he's the original keyboard player, right?
He is, yeah. He's the original keyboard player. Technically, he was in the band even before I was. We were at school together. We've known each other since we were like 4 or 5.
Wow.
We were at school all the way up until we were 18, and so he kind of got to know the guys online through the Dream Theater forum, I think, mm-hmm. way back when he was like 15, and then shortly afterwards he was like, oh yeah, the guy's looking for a drummer. So yeah, that's kind of where it all began, really.
Interesting. Well, you mentioned rehearsing before going into the studio. When you rehearsed on your drums, were you just reading written music, or were you playing along to guide rough tracks or something that the guys recorded to a click, or how did that process of preparing for the studio work?
So at that point, I've already heard the music so much that it's like very internalized. I kind of know and I've spent so much time on it in in its various forms, reworking it, that and because I go into so much depth with my individual drum part, that by the time I'm actually practicing to record it, I'm kind of just focusing purely on the notes that I've got to play and not really thinking about the rest of the song, because I've kind of heard it all in context so much already. We demo stuff in such depth that we get a really accurate sense of what the finished song is going to sound like before we even record it. But yeah, when I'm then in the studio, I will then use guide tracks that some of the guys have already recorded, and they can be either demo parts or final parts that end up on the album.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think I said Vector instead of Virus. You guys now need to make an album called Vector.
Well,
That's the red one.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Virus that you wrote on the bus. The
Correct,
album before.
yeah.
Got it.
Or
I
at
remember
least-
now.
Yeah, at least we worked a lot on it on the bus. It's not like we just came up with it from scratch on the bus and just wrote it.
Drum kit in the back corner in front of the bedroom.
Yeah. But no, when we're all together in a room, things get done in a very different way, and sometimes a lot more quickly. And just the process is much smoother, I guess, doing it like that. But unfortunately, because of the way we're all sort of dotted around the place, we can't do that all the time.
Well, one of the things I'm looking forward to about the new album is the fact that I love the whole Haken catalog. And you may remember that I discovered Haken very shortly after Vector came out. So one of the very few bands in my lifetime where I immersed myself in the studio album first. So a lot of times, especially when I was much younger, I would listen to a live album first. My first exposure really to dive into Yes was Yes songs. Then it was The Song Remains the Same with Led Zeppelin. Second's out with Genesis. Right. And then I would get the studio albums, and you know how different it can be sometimes. It was like, what the hell is this? So the Vector album really set a bar for me. And then I went backwards in the catalog to see how it devolved so that I could see how it evolved. So with Vector being such a high bar for me as a fan, I can't wait to hear what the new album sounds like. What are some of the musical differences, and what are some of the musical things that, of course, are the same? I mean, I'm sure, and I'll show people a video in a moment, your syncopated style of metal drumming and, just all that stuff I'm sure is still there. But are there thematic differences? Are there musical differences?
Yeah, well, I think coming off the back of Vector and Virus, which were kind of, two connected albums, both kind of thematically and musically, they were kind of our heaviest and most sort of techie albums, I would say, to date. Definitely sort of consistently throughout the music, there's a lot of challenging, crazy metal end stuff.
Definitely.
So I guess in comparing that to Fauna, Fauna definitely kind of takes a step back from the sort of in-your-face, techie, like full-on metal vibe that we were going for on Vector and Virus. There's definitely some sort of flavors of that left. I don't want to sort of spoil it too much at this stage, but there's definitely one or two songs on there that are like still have a little bit of that vibe. But then the songs like Nightingale, which I think a lot of our fans are probably already quite familiar with now.
Yeah, we posted it to promote this a couple times.
Right.
It's great.
Right. That's definitely more kind of, it's definitely got some more old school Haken proggy vibes and less of the sort of in-your-face metal riffage. So it's quite I would say it's quite a diverse album, really. I mean, we also released a single, Alphabet of Me, 2 weeks ago, which is a much lighter track on the whole compared to Vector and Virus. So yeah, dynamically it's kind of all over the place as an album, but it's also very dense. There's quite a lot of musical material packed into every song, and there isn't really much kind of space. There's just a lot of music to digest.
There's nothing like Going to California on there?
Unfortunately not. No, no. It's
No,
but
that's great.
I think yeah. I think just the sheer sort of scale of the music and all the different ideas and all the different sort of areas that we explore on the album. I think it will give the fans a lot to digest and mull over for quite a long time.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, I'm really excited to see how people respond to it.
Well, for those of you not familiar with Haken or Ray's drumming, I'm going to show a video. And in the meantime, excuse me, getting over a cold, let me know where you're watching from, folks, and let us know what questions you have for Ray all along the way, whether it's about the tour, about the new album, about gear. We're going to get into some foodie questions as well. So go ahead and chime in. I got the show up right here, and I'll be checking comments. Here we are with Carousel live in Quebec City back in May. Check this out. Love that. Just for fun, while we're doing this, let's show another. This is The Architect. Is this video the original track from the album?
Well, it's live audio.
It is live. Okay, so
Yeah.
so the intro may get muted, folks. But if you're watching it live, hey, it's another reason to show up for lives. But the rest of it is, like Ray said, live. So check this out. This is The Architect. I love this song. Just a teaser. Buy the album, folks. Buy all the albums. They're great. It makes me want to go play. It really does.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, such fun music. What does the tour look like? When does it begin? Where does it begin? Where are you going?
So we start on the 21st of February, I believe. So we're only about 2 months out, something like that. Yeah, 2 months out.
Wow.
And we start in Hamburg in Germany. And yeah, we're just going to make our way around most of Europe really for about 6 weeks or so, with Between the Buried and Me and Cryptodira. And yeah, it should be an epic tour. We're going to be hitting a lot of new places that we haven't played before. We're playing a couple of shows in Portugal, a few more shows in Spain than we've done before, even in France. And
where are you looking forward to the most, Ray, that you haven't been before?
That we haven't been before. Oh, I don't know. There's quite a few places. I guess we're playing a couple of shows in Italy. We usually only play in Milan, so the other show in Italy should be fun as well because the Italian crowd is always pretty nuts. Yeah, and we're playing. I don't know. Yeah, I guess definitely those other shows in Spain and Portugal should be fun.
Cool. And then you come to North America after that?
Absolutely. So we're going to take a few weeks off, and then we're going to start in North America in, what is it, the first week of May, something like that?
Great.
3rd or 4th of May.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's going to start in Nashville, and again, work our way around as many states as we can and finish up in Chicago. And yeah, we'll be in Phoenix in 22nd of May, I think we were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, we'll get together then. That's awesome. Bring my
Yeah.
wife. We'll do an interview. I was talking to Ray before the show. If logistics allow, we'll do a gear tour, as some of you have seen me do. The most recent I could think of was with Jason Hartman, who plays for Ted Nugent. We did a really neat gear tour, and we can geek out on that because most drummers, I think, love that. You know who I was surprised who is not really into that? This is still blowing my mind. I got to share this with you. My son and I, Steve, do a show called Yes Shift, and it's all about the Yes universe and some periphery
Right.
bands and stuff. So we had Bill Bruford on, and we simulcast on Drum Talk TV.
Nice.
And before the show, I said, "So Bill, yeah, we'll talk about this, that, this. We'll talk about gear." Well, he says, I'm not really into gear. He's the only drummer I can think of that every album, every tour, he's at a completely different setup. So
Yeah.
that just like blew my mind to hear that. It was funny.
Yeah, I guess maybe I don't know, he clearly is, but he probably just doesn't sort of geek out on it.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought that was funny, but that would be
Yeah.
fun to do in May. And how excited are you guys about getting out on the road? We talked earlier a little bit about last year. You got your feet wet a little bit, but now it looks like it's all full Adult Swim.
Yeah, we haven't done like our own headlining touring since like, I don't know, I want to say 2019. When was it? Yeah. Because the touring that we were doing leading up to the pandemic was in support of Devin Townsend. So we did a European run with him, and then we only got halfway through the North American run with him.
Right.
And then Symphony X earlier this year. So just like being able to play our own shows just makes a huge difference. It's our own fans. We get to play longer sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's what we're kind of living and doing this for.
That's great. So speaking of the longer set, other than the long drum solo, like how many songs is there left to be able to do?
Well, the whole set is a drum solo.
Yeah, that's right. With the backup band. That's funny. We do have some comments here. Stephen is chiming in saying, love seeing the playing in music videos like these. Me too. I don't, no offense to anybody, but I'm not so much in favor as a music video that's like a movie and it plays out the story. I want to see my guys and my girls play that I'm influenced by and that I really admire. I want to see, the drumming and the guitar playing and the drumming. I love that stuff.
Everything else can, that can
Yeah.
wait.
Calderola says, great tour. Can't wait to see. He's coming to us from Brewster. I do a show with Lou on Drum Talk TV called Under the Influence. And we each bring two pieces that we were influenced by. It's a lot of fun. But speaking of the tour, I have two foodie questions for you that I've been looking forward to. I'm not that big, but I'm big on food, a big foodie. Had to change a lot of things 3.5 years ago when I was diagnosed as diabetic, and that's gone really well. My wife's been great about that. I do most of the cooking, but she's come up with some amazing alternatives to things that I can't eat. And I know that you're vegan. Do you have two questions? One, any new favorite vegan recipe or something that you're in favor of preparing? And number two, what's the most amazing vegan meal you've had outside of where you live on tour in a different country or while traveling?
Yeah, tricky.
Well, because some
before
places aren't as accommodating to that culture of vegan, cuisine. So I imagine it could be a challenge.
Sure. Yeah, that can definitely be tricky. I actually find, especially when I'm over here in Europe, I don't know if I told you this before, but I bring a little flight case with
You
me.
did.
Did I tell you that?
Yeah, tell everybody. I remember now. Yeah.
I've got a little tour case that's got a little blender in it, and I just fill it with sort of powders and nuts and dried fruits and that kind of thing, so that if I am kind of stuck for good like whole foods nutrients in a day, then at least I can sort of fall back on that.
Yeah.
And I'll try and have that, every morning while I'm on the road if I can. And then if the dinner option sucks, then I'll just have another one of those.
On that note, is it written into the tour rider? I don't know if any of the other guys are vegan or the crew, but is it written in that there needs to be some vegan options with the catering?
Yeah.
Good.
We've got that written in. I mean, we're not particularly demanding with our riders. You know, we try and keep things just fairly healthy and fairly sort of just simple.
Hmm.
But sometimes the vegan option is either kind of not really satisfactory, or
We're not
if
really
if
vegan.
or
Right.
maybe not vegan, or sometimes sometimes this happens all the time. Whether I'm on tour, whether I'm at like some kind of event where there's a vegan option, the vegan option just goes. It doesn't matter if there's vegans there or omnivores there. Everyone
Hmm.
just gravitates towards the vegan food and eats that first.
Interesting.
Um, so sometimes you have to get in there early, otherwise, you know, the two or three vegans who are actually in the touring party might not even get their dinner because everyone else is eating it first.
Oh, funny.
But no, I mean it's not that bad. You just have to keep an eye on it. But yeah, what else? I mean, just before I was talking to you, I was just at the shop actually getting ingredients to make a trifle.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I don't know if is trifle a thing in the US? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it is. In fact, 1,000 years ago, I had a cooking show on TV, and about 6 months into it or something, I ended up getting a co-host who was an executive pastry chef, graduated
Right.
from the Culinary Institute of America. He was like 10, 15 years older. Yeah, probably 15 years older than me. And that's the first thing he made on the show was a trifle in a
Nice.
beautiful big, yeah, for those who don't know, it's basically like the best layman's description, I guess, would be layered mousses and things like that. And you could put fruit, you
Yeah.
could put nuts. Yeah,
It's almost like a deconstructed cake just
yeah.
stuffed into a bowl with cream and custard on top.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really good though. I love it. So yeah, I'm quite excited about it. That's one recipe I've made quite a lot for like special occasions and leading up to Christmas and stuff.
Oh,
Um,
great.
so I'm quite into that. And then in terms of food on the road, one that's really sticking in my mind is we were in Portland earlier this year, and Portland, Oregon, and it's rare when you're in the US that you're in a sort of at a place on the road where there's just a nice little street of shops like you would get in Europe, because usually everything's kind of quite spaced out in the US. You have to get cabs everywhere and the big malls and
Yeah,
everything like
yeah.
that. So we were on this really nice little street with lots of little independent shops and restaurants and stuff. And yeah, I walked into this place and just got the most amazing. It was kind of like a Buddha bowl type thing, just like loads of really healthy, like salads, and there was some seitan in there, and just like really nice dressing.
Oh, nice.
Um, it sounds a bit kind of too healthy, maybe, to be also really tasty, but honestly was just amazing.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it really sorted me out for the day,
Great.
which is quite important because we have quite long days and we need
Yeah. All
the
that
feed.
energy expenditure, can really take a lot out of you. And if you don't take care of yourself, just playing like that at home, if you were to play like that at home every day, it's easy to
Mm,
get depleted. But when you're
mm,
playing like that on the road and you're traveling and the long hours and all that, there's so much more to it. And I think a lot of musicians and music fans who don't tour don't understand what the job is to a degree,
mm.
or rather what the demands are. So you have a 14, 18 hour day. A lot of
Mhm.
people think, oh, you party till 2 a.m. after the show, you sleep in. Often you got to be at the airport at 5 the next morning, and it's a whole different thing. And you get paid. People say, man, they only play for an hour and a half, and they're making all this money. And they're not making
Yeah,
any money while they're playing. They're getting paid to travel and do all these things that Ray's talking about, that being away from family, if your family doesn't go. A lot of people don't really know that side of
mm,
being on the road.
absolutely. Yeah. There's it's not the kind of rock and roll glamorous lifestyle that people
Yeah,
think it is, or that it might once have been back in the day. I don't know, but for us, yeah, it's like long days. It's tiring.
yeah.
Yeah, we have to make a lot of compromises, but at the end of the day, literally, you get to play a great show to a whole
Doing
bunch of
what
your
you
fans,
love.
and
Yeah,
that's what makes it so worthwhile.
that's great. So people, hopefully, if you're watching, you've been watching since I showed a couple clips of Ray's playing. Ray, given the context of what most people know you're playing as a drummer, what would some music be that might surprise them What are some music that's just, probably right in line with people would expect? And are there any guilty pleasures or things? And of course, you could talk about playing the tuba too. Not only does Ray play tuba, but he's played the tuba on Haken music before. So kind of swirl all that around for people, because I love when people are known for one thing, but they love this over here. And, it's so easy to stereotype musicians based on what they're known for.
Yeah, so like, I guess, so kind of more unexpected musical influences and the more expected ones, and then
Yeah.
Oh, well, a guy that I've been listening to a lot recently called Robert Amos, or I think he might just go by Rob Amos, Ames, and his music is phenomenal, but it's like very ambient electronic music. I haven't sort of properly explored exactly how he makes it, but I remember speaking to a friend of mine who is a friend of his, was telling me that at least the tune that we were listening to at the time, apparently he just makes everything with his viola, which is just crazy. When you actually listen to the soundscapes that he creates,
you'd never suspect it's just that one instrument.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And yeah, his music is just absolutely stunning. I can't get enough of it at the moment. So that's like a complete left turn from Haken. There's barely even any drums or percussion in it.
Interesting. Are you familiar with a band called Chromatics?
No, I don't think so.
A year ago, Steve turned me on to them when we were on a long road trip for the American Thanksgiving holiday, driving from his place in Bakersfield, California, to the Portland, Oregon area where my daughters live. And he put on Chromatics, and strangely enough, you bring up their ambient. They did a great rendition of Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. But coincidentally, I listened to one of their albums, their last album, Closer to Gray, last night while I was cooking. And you might like that. And I'm going to look out Rob Amos's stuff. It sounds very intriguing.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, it's great. It's amazing stuff. And then stuff that I'm more into that's kind of more expected.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't listen to a whole lot of like prog rock, prog metal nowadays. One band that I absolutely love though is Car Bomb. I know they've been around for years and years, but then
Car Bomb.
Car Bomb, yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. I'll have to look them up.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're like Meshuggah on acid. Yeah.
Wait, I thought Meshuggah was on acid. Oh.
Their music is like I can't get over it. Every time I listen to their music, it's like so elastic, the way that they play with like rhythms and subdivisions and stuff.
Interesting.
Whilst also sort of having that kind of Meshuggah-y.
Yeah.
I mean, not all the time. As I said, it's kind of moving and stretching all the time. It doesn't have like a really rigid grid like Meshuggah's music does. But they're clearly big fans of them. I think the drummer is called, I want to say Elliot Hoffman. And
I think
he's like,
he's
just an absolute savage of a drummer. I can't even like
Car Bomb.
comprehend what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, gotta check them out. Awesome. Thanks. Cool. What does Haken look beyond? You've just finished an album, you've got a tour. Do you look beyond that at all? As far as when you're going to reconvene and start getting creative together, or what does your guys' timeline look like?
Yeah, we're not too rigid with that sort of thing. Like, for example, myself and Pete usually will be working on something behind the scenes, whether we're kind of thinking of it as being on an album, ever being released in the first place, who knows, but even just like last week, I think it was, or the week before, we started working on a tune that we would, definitely consider being a new Haken song. But at the same time, we don't have any kind of big ideas as to what the next Haken album's going to be or what sort of approach we're going to take. And we haven't discussed as a band what comes after Fauna at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not really too rigid or too strict at the moment. Just see how things go. I think we mainly just want to focus on getting as much out of Fauna as we can and touring it as much as we can. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Just let it all happen organically. Do you have plans to go to Asia at all?
We're talking about Asia maybe towards the end of next year.
Okay.
It may end up being early 2024. But we at the moment, yeah, we don't have anything booked yet post like summer next year. So we're sort of hoping to fill that gap with either South South America, Asia, Australia, one or two of those markets if we can.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah, that would be awesome if we can.
Awesome. I'm gonna look at comments. Um, Steve says Asia the band or Asia the
That'd be
album.
cool.
So Luke Colarola says also looking into Car Bomb. Thanks for spreading that around, Ray. Cool. Awesome. Do you want to give any tips for drummers that are looking into getting into more syncopated music, and maybe some drummers who have really learned more traditional time signatures, who want to really get into the weeds of the math more? What are there some resources or some mindsets that you can offer about how to teach your limbs to do all these different things at the same time and whatnot?
Yeah, that's tricky. I think the main thing you really have to do is just to listen to the right music, and let that kind of thing happen organically. Yes, there's all sorts of like exercises and things you can do on the kit itself to sort of develop those things. I mean, one book that I can think of, for example, is like New Breed. That's a pretty classic
Yeah.
method book. It's really good for developing independence. It's not specifically related to like odd time. It's just sort of general independence and creativity. But that's like a very methodical, like step-by-step process. And I teach a lot of people who don't really like, I don't know, that kind of approach doesn't necessarily work for them. And I think, there isn't kind of one sort of silver bullet for this sort of thing. But I would say most importantly, you just need to listen to the right music.
Dive in.
Yeah, yeah.
Emulate it, teach your body to do it, basically.
Exactly. I mean, when I really sort of started getting into the kind of music that I play now, like progressive music, it was obviously all kind of through Dream Theater and Mike Portnoy. I mean, it's like impossible to avoid, and that was our common ground. Like everyone in the band was just a big Dream Theater fan, and whether I was sort of playing his parts right or not, I was probably like nowhere near what he was actually playing when I was just trying to copy him when I was in my teens or whatever. But at least I was there just listening to their music continuously and
it
trying
shaped
to
where you
replicate.
ended up in a big
Exactly,
way.
yeah,
That's
and it's
the
just a
point.
step-by-step thing. You pick up one thing here and another thing there, and it just eventually sort of adds to your vocabulary and what you can do on the instrument. Yeah.
Exactly. Great. Ray, you do teach online, right?
I do, yeah.
How
Yeah.
can people reach out to you if they want to talk about that and find out more about what you offer?
Yeah, well, they can hit me up on my socials. I'm on Facebook, whatever it is, I don't know, you can find me. Instagram is at Ray Haken, I think, or Ray.Haken. I think it's just Ray Haken. Or you can email me, ray@hakenmusic.com as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Ray, thanks for taking time. I'm very excited about getting with you on the 22nd May, which will be a lot of fun. And congratulations on the new album. It comes out when? February something?
Ooh,
21st
no,
or
I think it comes out March the 3rd, I want to say.
March the 3rd. Okay.
Have a look. March the 3rd, yeah.
Okay. Make sure you send us some goodies that we can help promote it with prior to it actually coming out. We're happy to do that.
Yeah.
And I have to
Great.
get that for sure. Yeah. Thanks for taking time. Hang on the line with me. And folks, thank you so much for joining Ray Hearn from Haken with me here on Drum Talk TV. And if you're watching the live or even on the archive, you could look for what I'm going to mention right in the feed after this one this afternoon, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern US. That would be that'd be 9 p.m. UK time there. I think I got that sorted out. Stephen will straighten me out if not. Phil Ehart from Kansas on 50 years of Kansas and their new giant package of goodies called Another Fork in the Road, and their tour. Phil's never been on, and I'm a huge fan, so I'm excited about that. So watch for that, folks. And then tomorrow, Friday, at Steve will put in the time because I don't remember, and my laptop's on my other calendar. Simon Collins is joining us to talk about E-Molecule, the project, with his other cohort from his previous project, Sound of Contact, Kelly Nordstrom. They're joining us, I think, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, and 8 p.m. UK. All right, that's how we're closing out the year with interviews. Thanks so much for joining us, folks, and for following what we do. 10 years of Drum Talk TV, officially the first week of January. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon.